And without further ado, I'll hand over to you.
Hi.
Thanks, John.
Thanks so much. Can everybody hear me out there? Great. So thanks so much. A little bit of a different topic here, talking about online communities and really how we can get some ROI out of that. Me, over my experience, that events, virtual events, go hand in hand with online communities, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. A little bit, something you know a little about me. I'm not just someone who's been doing this for a little bit. I got over 15 years of building some of the most recognizable brand communities in the industry, from HP to Google, Electronic Arts, and The Sims. It's given me a great history of running events and really participating with the community and activating that community of users, whether it's developers, gamers, evangelists, of the like. And I got the benefit of working with a bunch of teams, so it's not always been in like a customer support capacity. So we're really seeing the community be effective across most of the organizations within the company, affecting marketing, sales, support. We've been in Forrester and Gartner, a bunch of different awards over the years, so that's just a little bit about me. What I've been up to the last year has been working on a community management software that allows you to connect multiple communities into one source and really allows for a 360 view of all your communities. The reality is most people have Discord, Reddit, Slack, this forum over here that they need to monitor and contain. So this literally allows you to have this 360 view and start to do some automation around the reports. I know for me, when I was at a large-scale organization, some of the reporting at the end of the month was some of the hardest part of the month. Right? It could take me, days, if not the whole week, to actually culminate, put these materials together, put the numbers together, and really try to show ROI. Because what I found out early on in my career is that if I wanted to secure my money and my place in the company, that I really needed to show that I was impacting the business, not just what I would refer to as vanity metrics, such as page views, likes, and the number of members. So what you can achieve with your ROI is really what it's going into is like if you're not showing the numbers, you're not getting that seat at the decision-making table. So by showing my influence, at one point I was saying at one company I was getting over half the overall web traffic, yet I was receiving 1/10 of the budget, right? So this was a clear mishap, right? Why am I receiving so much little budget when I'm actually driving most of the overall traffic for the company? So now I had actually concrete numbers to go to my executive leaders to ask for that raise around my budget, to ask for more headcount and ask for new software to actually drive the problems. Also, by having this ROI and showing these numbers for multiple business units allows you to get investment and involvement from other groups within the organization. By just thinking about one thing around events or around support or around leads, you're not necessarily doing what I refer to as a horizontally integrated community. Most successful communities at places like Oracle or Cisco or Salesforce, their community is not just a siloed community where they're in the support community. It's horizontally integrated with multiple business units using it as their day-to-day business practice. Right? This is a huge benefit for the company as there's really an overlap of work and exposure from different business units into what's going on. This ability to develop programs and strategies to return also. Really one of the things that's helped me out in my career is to look at the numbers, is to affect my content marketing strategy, right? Not only just like thinking what I want to do and coming up, here's what content I'm going to be making, whether it's webinars, authoritative articles, white papers, blogs. What we would do is we would look at the community data and see what's happening, what are people talking about. Not only, they're talking about it because they like it and it's kind of popular, I might see that there's a trending topic of people having an issue with some part of my software or some part of my product. That'll give me an indicator that I can start creating a series of like training videos or guides because it's probably not broken. If it's not broken, it's more like a miscommunication or not understanding of how your product works. One of the main drivers, some of the big tech companies out there, is going to be case deflection and call avoidance. The numbers here is from SaaStr. It was an event a few weeks ago, last month, from Holly, and she was at Salesforce where these numbers came from. And it's pretty staggering. You think that there's 4K monthly questions answered, and 83% of them are answered by peers. That means none of your company resources are answering that. That saves them $2 million a month in support cost tickets alone. So by showing that and tying those numbers together, you can see how community become a core part of the strategy for the support team and make sure that you have that budget, that funding to continue your events and your other programs. because by maintaining your support area, right? There's also the concept of social care nowadays. You're seeing companies like HP really try to think about this concept of decentralized community. That communities are everywhere now. And as a support team or as a community team, you need to be going to where your customers are, not just bringing them back in the traditional hub and spoke model where you have your centralized community. Now with the decentralized community, you need to go out to all over the place. And social care is a way of using social media monitoring listening tool to identify people that are in trouble. People are having troubles with your brand out there, maybe on Reddit, right? And now with tools, we can identify who that person is talking and then map that to, this was on the enterprise side of things, right? So they paid for a paid support account. So if we knew that person is at a company with a paid support account, we should help them out, right? That only makes sense to me as like a user or a community manager. It's like, this guy is in need, he's asking a question, we know the answer, like why don't I just go over there? So we came up with a process to actually funnel those questions in, create tickets out of it, and assign it to the right experts that are assigned to those accounts, right? Because the reality is those accounts have account managers and customer success leads, and they just didn't know these problems are happening or their customers, employees are talking about them. Also, by having your community out there and answering questions, we've seen a great increase in customer satisfaction scores, right? Doing CSAT scores and CSAT surveys, always higher when you're actually using your community, people that are in there using your community, and really increasing that adoption. We've seen at other companies really showing that adoption rates go up when people start talking about their product. So customer pre-qualification. So moving past like what your traditional support community, right? In the beginning, right, you start your online community, you usually start with one use case, right? One person's gonna like get this idea, we're gonna go run with it and prove it out. But soon after that, when you start establishing your community, you really wanna start spreading out, right? And how could customer pre-qualification, what does that mean? Really lead generation and score leading. People don't think it's like a thing or not, I don't know why. And community managers don't wanna think about that, but the reality is people join your community that don't go to your main website, right? As if your partners, your customers have a large organization, someone who's down actually using your product is way different than the person that bought the product, right? They might be an IT manager or something like that, and you're like the end user is the marketing guy, right? And he's in there using it, but he joins your community, you get that net new lead, you're adding that contact score. The other side of what we've been doing lately is doing lead scoring based off community activity, which makes sense if you think about it. You do lead scoring to push people through the funnel, marketing qualified leads to sale qualified leads, right? And a lot of people will do that by, okay, they signed up for a webinar, it gives them a point, they downloaded a white paper, that gave them a point, maybe they made a direct contact that they said they wanted, or they phone, or they email, that all adds to your point totals to move that company through the funnel. So you have more people from that company doing activities, increase more points for that overall account, right? So now think, I have these people over on the community, and this guy's asking questions, pre-sales type of questions, like what systems does this integrate with? How can I get the best out of this? He's researching your product before they buy it, right? So now you can say this person's got 10 posts to your community. It naturally says to increase that person's to an MQL lead and actually push them farther down the lead to actually now someone from sales is contacting, see if there's an opportunity there. So you can definitely use community for that really scoring. The other parts people don't always listen to about is the user journey, how people find your community. Because it is such a valuable resource for people to get information, to connect with other users, for scoring, for case deflection, but you'll have your community buried because it was more kind of an afterthought for people. So the linking, where it is, where you get to it is very difficult. So one of my things is really look for how your user journey is. The other one I have down there is sales retention. Salesforce came out with another number from there that people that participated inside of their community were 80% more likely to retain or to renew their contracts, where people that didn't, or companies that did not participate in their online community had 60%. So a 20% difference in retention rate is significant. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars for a company like Salesforce when we're talking about that. I have some tips over here, right? really like having your properly integrated CRM is like a key thing. Really having that data go in between and having your community membership and your CRM membership being one and the same, making sure those two systems are connected. Do you have a plan, right? Is there a plan for people where you can move these through the sales cycle? Do you have contacts within the sales organization, right? Do you have that lead scoring if you're using something like a Marketo or something? And then how are you positioning your content as well to further potential clients, right? Are you getting the right kind of content in there for people that are in the pre-sales cycle coming to your community? I read some research to say like, used to be, they contact you much quicker. The pre-sales cycle is much longer now, and people do more research online. They're going to spend I can't remember, like 9 sites or something. They're going to research you before they actually come and talk to your salesperson. So how are you making sure that you have pre-sales content in your community, not only just support stuff and what's broken, but trying to add in those things? Yeah, just checking my time. I'm going fast. I should slow down a little. So the other one really talking about is like network and resourcing sharing. I think this is like another no-brainer for people, right? People really want to share. Some of the programs that have been like most successful to me in the community are developer programs. When I was inside the software industry, they really have that affinity. They're code sharing, the connecting. If you think of like Stack Overflow and these type of sites that have been made their whole entire industry out of it. But being able to share and develop developer programs and to share those credentials and offer training and programs inside your community is another way you can leverage that same platform, right? So you see that you might be paying a significant amount for your community platform at these big enterprise companies, but they're not just using it for one thing, right? Like you're saying, now I'm using it for another use case with another business unit, right? Developer, education, training, partner programs. One of my biggest communities that I've built in my career was a partner network, right? If you think of channel partners, reseller partners, and some of these bigger organizations, they make up a large percentage of their workforce. Yet a lot of the people within those organizations don't have necessarily access to your materials, right? So you're able to develop these partner programs and put them into the community. Why I said that partner programs were one of the most influential to me is I saw that the partners had the most vested interest in responding to my community members. All right, they wanted to establish themselves as an expert. They wanted people to view them as an expert, so they'd come and use their services. So they found a vested interest to be participating in the community, to be active in there, to be recognized in there. That way people recognize them as an expert around those topics. The other side, I think, is we see with community in these days is knowledge-based integration, right? Really, you can do a lot with integrating and tapping into the knowledge base. And I think a core kind of thing that I didn't put in here about that is having like some integrated search. I have it over in some of my tips. And another thing is really thinking you have like a unified search, right? We're seeing more and more communities having a unified search where now when you do go search on your main web presence, you're getting all the community content. You're getting the blog content. You're getting the knowledge-based content and really adding to it. So something like the tips over there, right, about are there content to support the members' conversations? Like it's all you'll see a theme going through these tips is content, content, content. In the community, people come. I always say people come and participate in your community for like 3 things, right? They come, or it makes it successful. There's one is content. Is there something compelling they want to read, engage with, or talk about? Is it easy to use? So that's the other thing community managers forget about: the UI, the aesthetics, how it looks, the usability. Like I said, the user flow I mentioned earlier, how people are getting to it. And then also, the other thing, the last kind of pillar of that is the networking, the relationships they build with you. That's why you see like gamification and points and leaderboards and reputations are so impactful on communities, because people want to be recognized. They want to have that leaderboard. They want to be the #1 person. I know I was at a community and I was the #1 poster for a very long time, and this guy like passed me up, and after a year and a half of running this community from the ground, he went over me on the leaderboard. I was like, finally, the community is self-sustaining. And then a couple weeks later, I was like migrating a blog, and I moved like 10,000 posts in there, and my point total went up like 10,000 points in a day. He was not happy. It wasn't more than like 2 or 3 minutes. I got a direct message. He's like, "You're cheating. You can't do that." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't see it added the points," and I had to roll it back. But it shows you that people are invested in those points, in those reputation. Places like Cisco community, right? There's one guy on there, it's equivalent to like 3 years of typing. If you were to like add up, like if he were to like sit there and type for 3 years, that's how many posts he has on there. 100,000 posts or something. It was some crazy number. We actually had to roll back the points total out of it because we calculated and the people could never get to his level, and it felt kind of unfair. So we made him a special badge and got reduced his points. So what also, another key component, so now we're talking more horizontally, going to another group, is the events team. So I've always been, at most of my organizations, part of like core teams for event teams, organizations or for events like Sales Dreamforce, for Oracle Open World, for SAP, TSIA, some of the larger tech conferences, along with active user group programs. So one of the most effective ways of a community was we developed these user group programs. Someplace we're seeing over 40 cities around the world at some of our companies. At some of the places in my starting, it's really just about multiple cities, couple cities here and there, trying to activate local regions. But you can use your community to facilitate this year-round, right? And this is something that I think event organizers need to realize, or what some of my event teams have in the past, is that we can create a community around our event that lives on. As your events, they might happen annually, quarterly, or depending on the frequency of it, right? If it's an annual or yearly event, you can have this persistent site. And what we did is the next year, by having the older content up there, people were really like, wow, I wanted to attend because it gave them a glimpse of what happened there the year before. And then before the event really started, when we start getting our speakers, we would invite them into the community and have like little like webinars or 2 or 3 minute like interview sessions, or have them engage directly with the audiences and talk about what they're speaking, kind of hype up what they did. And people thinking about joining the conference or the event, reading this content is very compelling to them on why they go. And then they look at the depth of conversations from last year. Then when you're during the event, you see community is active, they're there, people are connecting. Where are you? We're a meetup, here's my booth. And then your community post-event is really, okay, here's the stuff I kind of want to share with you after, the different vendors, I talked to people, here's some presentations or resources that I wanted to share with you and really drive that experience around the year. Community and virtual events, it's like one and the same. So, really, they go hand in hand. I've actually hosted virtual events directly inside of my community for community members at times. Going all the way back to my Sims days, where we would do virtual fashion shows and stuff right inside the community site. Were highly engaging, right? That was one of my favorite kind of virtual events I did a long time ago. Is came up with a concept where it was Sims, the video game, design clothes. We said, okay, design all these clothes, and did the winners, but we could have just done pictures, but what we did, it took it further. We animated it, we made it into a catwalk. We did a fashion show. We made it virtual. We did virtual online voting. We got millions and millions of page views, homepage at Yahoo that year. And but the coolest part is at the end is we really connected it with one of our partners as well, and a brand. So we partnered with H&M, and we actually, the winner was this red dress, and we had her dress made into a real dress, H&M dress, and put it in the store. And then we did it digitally as an asset within the game itself. And that lives on. And this is how you can create these kind of virtual events. If you really, I would say, look at gaming industry and how that goes. Because the gaming industry has really led the way on how you virtually or digitally interact with people on a consistent basis, right? And they've done some of the best at that over the years. Oh, hey, we got about a few minutes. We got 10 minutes left. There's some questions if we have it. Just to shout out, this is me. You can, or Communify LLC is my company. You can reach me, John Summers, on LinkedIn. And I think Mark, we got some
Brilliant,
questions.
thank you, John. Really, really insightful. I think we've obviously got some questions here online, but before we get to those, are there any questions in the room first? Anyone? Okay, great. So, first question: where do you host a community following an event?
Yeah, so there's a lot of like community solutions that are out there in terms of forum builders. They could be something as simple as like a Mighty Networks or a Vanilla, or going all the way up to like a Higher Logic and Salesforce applications that will do this. But you can start off, if you're low on the budget, there's free stuff out there. Discourse, you can get an open source version of it and install it on your server pretty quickly and start having those engagement and those conversations. The thing with those platforms is really limit your customizations. If you're like some of these other vendors out here, or people that you're really looking for that unique white labeled branding experience, you pay for it, but there are vendors out there in the community industry that can service all levels of it.
Great. Then how does tracking ROI differ for different communities?
Yeah, like it goes back to some of those horizontal use cases and really where you start out. Right, so if you're a consumer company or a B2B company, the impact of your community is different, right? If you're a consumer company, you're thinking, what is my product adoption? What is my share of voice? Which is a topic you'll see in that world. It's like, how much are people talking about my product versus my competitor's product? And really trying to drive that numbers within your community. Or if I'm talking about a tech software or a hardware product, then really the support aspect becomes more important than would say the evangelist side, versus if it's could be purely like an outreach or an evangelist side community as well too, where people really trying to cultivate those the influencers and develop those relationships with them.
Great, and then final question: what's the biggest missed opportunity for events and community integration?
Yeah, I think that's going to go back to the biggest missed opportunity is what I mentioned earlier, that people don't leverage the community before the event, right, and after the event, or think about having a forum, community messaging board type of aspect to their event website, right? You'll see that, yeah, you have your speakers, your agenda, how to contact and how to get there, but there's no place where I can ask like necessarily a question to the group. There might be a chat bot that people will enable to have a one-to-one conversation with a rep, but really having that one-to-many conversation is much more powerful because of, also we got to think of the SEO aspects, right? It's a huge SEO. People are Googling, those words show up. It's natural that people are going to find you that way. So using your community throughout your event, pre, post, and after.
Yeah, good way to end. Great, thank you very much everyone for joining. Thank you very much, John Summers,
Thank you
for today. Thank you.
Thank you guys.